Why is this a story? We're not really going to talk about him just showing.
No,
Alex
we're not.
Bregman
I just was saying
because, like, why is this? Because we do what you're supposed to do, which is show up on time. I don't understand.
Yeah, you reported on time, although you're only going to play catcher. And if I ask you to play first base or DH and you say no, I can send you home and not pay you. I did find out that little nugget this weekend. Did you know that?
Do you mean what? That they can send Stroman home and not pay him?
If he says I won't be a reliever, that's not allowed. You have to do what the team says in terms of your role on the team. Did you know that?
When else?
Is that not true?
When else? I mean, no. I don't want to play left field. Like, you're putting me in the game, I'm gonna play. Like, you're on the team. Of course, you got to do what they have to say.
I'm a starter.
It still goes back to my Phil Nevin story. So it goes back to my Phil Nevin story, where they asked Phil Nevin, they were like, we're going to trade you. He's like, nope. I got 10-5. I'm from San Diego. I love San Diego. I want to live here the rest of my life. And they're like, okay, Phil, tomorrow you're catching. And they put him in the lineup, and he had to catch one game. And he's like, okay, trade me. And they traded him to the Rangers, I think.
Not fair that you tell that story. I feel like you should say it and then say, if you don't know the story, then you're not listening or watching FT enough. But it is true. It is true. All right, let's charge so we can get to a couple things quick.
He's charging the mound.
We are charging the mound. Alex Bregman is in camp, which is awesome. So we can show the pretty arrival. And he gives a big hug to Alex Cora, his buddy. By the way, the Red Sox are operating a little bit more like the Red Sox now. They're over the CBT luxury tax number, $241 million. They also got a pick back, even though they lost a pick for Bregman, they got a pick back for Nick Pivetta. But the real news and the real drama is, where is Alex Bregman going to play? Did we get any hints from this note that Craig Breslow left the media?
AC and I, we have an obligation to the team, to the organization, and most importantly to our fans, to put the best offensive and defensive team on the field that we possibly can.
Second base. He's going to play second base because they need.
I think he's going to play second.
Casas. They need Casas in there, and then they can figure out a DH, which is Yoshida, is the DH, and that's their best offense and their best defense. He's going to play second base. Because the problem is, if they put him at third, you lose Devers or Casas, or Yoshida, or whoever else the DH can be. So, because if Devers is DH, he's DHing every single day. So, to me, he's going to play second base.
Spot on.
Okay, but
I get what you're saying. That you heard him say both offense and defense, but you're hearing it for what you want to hear. Yes, they're a better team defensively with Bregman at third base. How much worse are they offensively? All this might dictate.
Not worse at all.
Christian Campbell. It depends. You're banking a lot on what Christian Campbell is going to do to play second base. A rookie who has not been in the big leagues yet. You have a solidified. If you think Bregman's going to be great offensively, Yoshida had the same offensive output last year as Bregman.
Okay, I'll take Bregman. But I understand. I understand what you're saying. All right, we'll see what happens. Just was interesting to hear that. So you guys think if you were in charge, AJ, you're manager of the Red Sox, this is what you would do. You would say, Alex, just go play second. That's going to be your spot. Go have fun.
I'm going to say we need you to play the position that'll make us a better team. And the position that makes them a better team is second base, because Devers will be at third. I know Devers' defense is questionable, but you need Casas and you need Yoshida, and they don't want Yoshida to play left field. So that means if you have to put Bregman at third, that means Devers is your full-time DH and or Casas. And they don't want that. They want Casas to play every day, and they want Devers to figure out a way to play every day, because it opens up options for the DH. If you have Devers, it was like David Ortiz. Now, David Ortiz is in the Hall of Fame as a DH. But if David Ortiz is your everyday DH, guess who can't? No one else can be the DH. No one else can be the DH unless David doesn't want to play one day and I got to face David Price, right? But other than that, David Ortiz is your DH every day. Rafael Devers is your DH, and you don't want to pay $300+ million for a guy that's a DH only. I'm sorry, they don't want to do it. They need him to play on the field. And unless they're going to get rid of Casas or trade him, which they don't seem willing to do, Alex Bregman, I'm sorry, you're going to have to play second base for now. For now, until something happens.
I love and by the way, that was a punishment to you, not because David didn't want to face David Price. They were just punishing you while you were there, AJ. Just saying. We'll ask John Farrell at some point if they were punishing you or not. But
no, they were making sure David Price didn't throw at David and hit him, which he did when he eventually faced him. He eventually did face him and hit him, but it was more of we don't want David to get hit by David Price. If he hits you, we don't really care. And we had already gotten into it with them, so it was kind of a thing.
That's great. That's good stuff. To me, what Breslow said, the best team on the field to win now. I know AJ was leaning towards saying, well, they don't want Casas there. They don't want Devers in the DH. They don't want to lose these guys. Normally the Red Sox are like, we got to make sure the future is. I love that Breslow said, put the best team on the field to win now, because now this is when, whether the Red Sox spend $300 million in payroll or $200 million, when a team like this says they want to win now, that to me is a shift in an organizational shift, because I didn't feel that the last few years.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we have a guest joining us soon who will ask just that question. Does he feel like the Red Sox are kind of back and spending again? So that first CBT number is 241. It sounds like they're in like the 247 range. So you pay a 20% tax for a big market team. It's literal pebbles. I want to get to Shohei Ohtani. So he's back on the mound. And the thing that stands out to me is not the velocity or, okay, he threw 14 fastballs, 92 to 94, blah, blah. Okay. It's just that he's on the mound. And AJ, there's no past roadmap. So how do you think they're going to play this out? Do you think they're just going to say each day, Shohei, how do you feel? What should we do? And give him control, which is, remember what the Angels did after the first year or two. They were being like really controlling, and then they kind of eased up and just said, how you feeling today?
No, I think they're going to be careful. And they're not going to give him control at all, because if they give him control, he's going to want to pitch. I think they're going to say, I think they're going to say, listen, we're going to take this as slow as possible. You won the MVP as a DH last year. Go do that again. And when you pitch, you pitch. And I also think that they're going to go one inning at a time with him. Like, he's going to start a game and pitch one inning, and then they're going to have Sasaki, Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, Gonsolin, May, whoever else they can sign before the spring training, Kershaw maybe, right? I mean, they're going to have all these guys, because he's not going to go on a rehab assignment because he can't, because he's got to hit. So he's going to have to rehab at the big league level, and that's going to involve him pitching an inning here, 2 innings, 3 innings, like a spring training, because you can't send him down and be like, hey, go take a month and rehab your pitching arm. No, he's going to have to rehab at the big league level. So it's going to be interesting how they play it, but they're going to take it super slow with him.
As they should. As they should. He doesn't know what it's like to come back from this type of Tommy John surgery, a second one, whether it was internal bracing or not. And so just make sure the team takes it slow. He's competitive. He'll get out there and give you everything he has when he's ready. But he'll also get out there opening day if you'd ask him, hey, we really need this opening day. The Dodgers don't. So that it's really on the Dodgers to keep him healthy.
I mean, they don't even need him to pitch until October, most likely. But obviously, they want to get him flowing. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. All right, swinging back with Scott Boras, super agent, joining us on FT. NFT is sponsored by Mint Mobile. Do you like saving money or wasting money? Go ahead. One at a time. Kratz?
Saving.
AJ?
Wasting.
I knew it. All right, so then AJ, earmuffs while I talk about this?
See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. No, it's for 30 more seconds, but let me just tell everyone about how you can get yourself a little $15 a month for a few months when you sign up to see just how much you're going to save money on your wireless bill. But you get everything that you need, Kratz, don't you? Nation's largest 5G network, high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and you can just head over to mintmobile.com/territory and at least see how much you're going to save, right? And then also, if you do want to switch, what do? You just take that phone number and do what?
Keep the same phone number. Everybody on your plan. Very few people have one person on their plan. So you're not just saving a little bit. You're not saving a lot on one person. I think I have, my mother-in-law's on the plan. Everybody in my family has a phone. So we got like 6 or 7 phones. I don't know what it is. You're saving on each and every one of those. It's huge.
If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory, mintmobile.com/territory. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, 5 gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Be right back with Scott Boras. Hey, we're back. Scott Boras joining us soon. Let's keep covering spring training news topics because quotes are coming out and some things are getting confirmed. AJ, Mike Trout, officially now the right fielder for the Angels. A dash of DH here, a dash of center field there, but he's going to play right field. And this was the right option. I assume he's well aware of this. He wants to stay on the field. They need his bat.
Agreed. They need him in the lineup. They need to keep his legs healthy. That's been his thing. He's had leg problems lately. Back legs, right? How do they keep him healthy? How do they keep him on the field? Right field is much easier than center field. That's the argument with playing Judge in center field is it's too hard on his body. So moving to right or a corner, I mean, preferably I would have probably liked to have seen him go to left, but I get why they put him in right. Little DH here, maybe a center field every once in a while, but this is the right move for the Angels.
I would love to see him in left. I'm not sure he has the arm for right, but I would much rather see him in left unless they have to stick Soler out there more than they want to, but I don't think that's the case either. And I kind of like it. Maybe it's Joe Adell's. Maybe I'm missing somebody, but is it Joe Adell's chance to kind of be that superstar everybody thought he was going to be in a superstar position? That's a big jump to superstar for him, but
we'll take star.
Center field. A what?
I'll take star. I'll take
star?
good. Yeah, I'll take good. I'll take average. I mean, I agree with you. Good fella, super athlete. It hasn't all come together for him. He's gotten a little better, right? It was a really rough start for him. And I wonder, how old do we think he is at this point, right? Like,
20,
I feel like maybe
25?
26. Let me check.
Because he was
can't get it quickly.
20. He was 20 and 19 when I played with him at
25.
the end of 19. Yeah.
Yep, you nailed it. 25 years old. So, yeah, this is the time. You're right. I mean, you got Taylor Ward and Mike Trout in the corners, and you got to keep both of those guys healthy, which is an issue, and then Joe Adell in center field. Do we like the outfield arrangement?
Yeah. I
mean, it keeps Trout on the field, sure. It keeps Trout on the field, sure. I mean, I don't think Trout's a center fielder anymore. For me personally, I know he wants to say he is, but I just don't think he's a center fielder anymore with the injuries he's had and what he's gone through. And plus, if he plays a corner, again, I'd like to see him in left. I know Ward's not going to play right, so they have to put him in right, but I would love to see him in left because it's even less on his legs. Especially, this is going to sound dumb, and Kratz, you can agree with me or not, but this is going to sound dumb. When the Angels are in the third base dugout, they got to run to left field as opposed to running to right field. That's like 50 more steps per inning, and that would be a nice move for him too.
Every other sport is going to mock you for saying that, mock me for agreeing with you. it adds up. It's like the difference in having a bruise and letting it heal, or every single day you just keep touching that bruise. It never heals. Keep running a little bit extra. That's why center field, you're still running to catch balls in the outfield no matter where you're playing. The difference is center field, you're running to back up every ball hit to right and left, and you're running for the balls that you have to catch. So this is why it is more taxing. And you're talking about I guess we barely talk about 162 games anymore, but you're talking about 150 repeated days of that for 9 innings.
Yep, there you go. And Trout had a meeting with them. They made the decision. It's done. He's going to talk to Torrey Hunter and go over how to evaluate that going forward, how to learn how to be a good corner outfielder. Let's talk to our next guest here on FT, super agent Scott Boras, joining us right now in Foul Territory. Scott, great to have you on. Thank you for the time. Congrats on finishing your off season. So how do you think it went?
Well, not quite finished. Still have a few more guys to get placed, but for overall, we're pretty pleased with how things have gone, and certainly the Juan Soto negotiation was obviously very important to players and very important to Juan, and he had, I think we all think about the result, but what Juan went through for really 7 or 8 years of his career to get to the point that he got is really kind of a remarkable statement about him and how well he takes information and being strategic and how he handled his career. It was a very unusual step for a player.
Hey, Scott, how difficult was it, or maybe it wasn't at all, to coach Juan through the whole situation of getting an offer probably early on, and then eventually, I think the report, at least the one I saw, the last one from the Nats, was pretty hefty in the 400s. So how was that process for Juan? Did he ever waver, or he was like, I'm going to free agency, baby?
Well, you're a never land because remember the host of people around a player, particularly international players, that when you're offered 100 million and then you're offered 200 and then 300 and 400, to take market projective data and revenue streams and historical context of the game and markets, and to utilize that information to make your decisions. And you're 22, 23, 24 years of age, and you have most players taking the detour to accept, if not the 100, the 200, or the 300, and you have the risk of the game, performance gradients you have to meet to achieve those levels. It's really a testimony to one that about it. And then once you get into the market, you've got all the naysayers saying that, well, this is Ohtani. He got 450 million. Everybody in the game was after him, and this is what he got. And he pitches, and he is a remarkable offensive talent, and he also makes his franchise 150 to 200 million in addition to providing that. And you don't have an evaluation like that. He does. So obviously you're going to get not much more than that if you even achieve that. That was the conversations that led up to Juan's considerations in certainly the 23 and 24 season.
Scott, how did you get a hold of Juan? Because he changed his number and he didn't give his number to anybody. So how did you ever get a hold of him? Because I was trying to call him, and he changed his number and didn't give me the new number. So I was like, Juan, how am I supposed to know when you're going to sign here?
Well, AJ, you have our private line, so all you had to do was call.
No, I'm just kidding. But on a serious note, I mean, it was an interesting quote at the press conference when he's like, "Did any Yankees reach out?" And he's like, "No, I changed my number." But that's fine. I get it. It was a funny moment in the press conference.
Yeah, the level of people contacting a major league player, a statured major league player who's a free agent. Everyone has his number because he's been in the league for a while. It is near impossible to manage the amount of influence and information that comes to a player, and to really keep the focus, because you're so busy. We've got to narrow down a marketplace. We have all of these meetings. We have tons of data and meeting. I think I recorded, I had 68 meetings with Juan Soto between his first year in the major leagues and finally when he became a free agent. So the level of information and what he has to go through and the attention he has to require, plus he's involving anywhere from 8 to 10 members of his immediate family and aiding him with the decision and communicating information to them. Juan was a very, very busy guy in the offseason, no doubt.
All right, Scott, let me take you to the Alex Bregman contract. So that was the freshest one that you did. Of course, there was uniqueness to it. So can you talk me through how the Red Sox process worked into this, including if Theo Epstein was involved and why Boston, decided to kind of get themselves past that luxury tax number when they'd been hanging more in the middle of the pack in terms of team spending lately?
Well, I think they're always with the qualifying offer player who is 30 years of age. We've seen a relative consistent path. And I know that people are saying, why do these players sign late? What's going on? The answer is that major league executives do not want to give up draft picks and international money. So they go to the market where players do not have qualifying offers, or they don't mind giving up the draft picks for players that are 26, 27, 28, because their surplus evaluations are so extreme with young ages that it's good business for them to do this. When you get a 30-year-old player who has a qualifying offer, and I had many, and I think 6 in the last 2 years, when they're in that dynamic, you are not seeing clubs pursue them immediately. So when we get into the free agent market in January and February, the pursuit starts. They look at things, but relative to Boston, it was clear from a meeting with John and Tom, John Henry and Tom Warner, the principal owners of the Red Sox, that they wanted to change course. They had had enough of what went on the last 4 or 5 years. They really wanted to make sure their club was going to be competitive. And we had long conversations after Juan Soto signed, particularly about their focus on Alex. And, it's extraordinary that you have a major league player that's been in the playoffs every year of his career. He's been in the ALCS 7 times. What is his formula? What is he doing inside the locker room, in addition to what he does on the field, which is on the paper? But his leadership, mentorship, all of that needed, once it was understood and valued, I think there. We certainly, as we narrowed this down, and remember, we made offers to Detroit. We've made offers to Chicago that they did not accept. And Boston came in and, I think Craig Breslow called me 14 times to try to work through situations, because I developed a category for qualifying offer players, which are bridge contracts, as I call them, in effect, where players have optionality, they have opt-outs, but they also have the ability to get some length in the contract. And we potentiate the AAV in the early years of the contract so that there's some benefit. And the benefit the clubs get is that if they're giving up the draft pick, they don't have to give the long-term contract proposal. But in Bregman's case, he had both. He had long-term offers. He had bridge contracts offered to him. So he had to really evolve that information to where he finally led to a decision. And after being at the press conference yesterday, I really realized the impact that signing had on the team, on the media, on the ownership, about a very renewed competitive spirit that the Red Sox have now.
Scott, have you obviously saw the John Henry tweet where he's smoking the cigar after he signed Bregman, right? Now I have to ask this because yesterday you wore a Red Sox hat in the press conference. So how much is the fine going to be? And were you sitting there smoking a cigar in the other chair with John Henry? Because I've never seen you wear a Red Sox hat, but yesterday you definitely wore a Red Sox hat in that press conference.
Let me point that out. I have been contacted by many owners and GMs since. Remember that my beloved client, Mr. Bregman in the press conference did that on his own. He put that hat on me, and it's caused a great amount of communication. That was not my volition. It was something that he did, and a rather comical moment. And back when I played for the Cardinals and the Cubs, it was last time I wore an affiliated hat for sure. But the funny moment, but I probably a 30-second moment, but the cameras seemed to register like I was wearing a hat. He did that, and I took it off rather immediately, I might add.
You should never have a hat on when you have hair at your age. There's no way. Like, I wear a hat all the time because I got no hair. But my question is more about, you were saying, a player at 30, a player with a qualifying offer, they're really putting value on the younger player. What's a bigger problem with teams? The analytics of like an older player, or teams just not wanting to be competitive or needing to be competitive?
We have metrics. When you played, all my pitchers wanted to throw to you. Why? They knew the communication. They knew a lot of what you did as a player was not on the page. It was not there. It was how you communicate, how you relax them, the psychology, your focus on them, their level of trust you have. None of that evolves in our sport where we've got metrics that do that. But the majority of player evaluation is metrically calculated. The problem we have at the major leagues, the fans do not know how to measure competitiveness with teams. And the competitive commitment, that's what we call our metric. We go by percentage of revenue spent on the 40-man roster. And when we look at the number of teams that spend above 50%, you would guess how many. You would think a lot. No, it's a very small number. When you look at the number of teams that spend 40% or below, you're going to find, shockingly, some amazing. The Yankees spend 40%. They used to spend 55%. You're going to have Boston in that area, but you've got a number of teams that are spending below 100 million. For example, last year there were 6 teams spending below 100 million, and the money they get from the general fund is above that. So we really need to have a competitive commitment measure, a metric to say, on your 40-man roster, how much of your revenues are you spending? And then we get to the real problem in the CBA is revenue definition. We have RSNs that are owned by teams, so that's not an arm's length transaction about how much money they really receive for their rights. We know there's a huge disparity between clubs that negotiate with somebody that's independent for their rights versus negotiating with the ownership of a club-owned RSN. That's one major issue for revenue definition. The other one is what we call proximity-based revenues. Proximity-based revenues are what I earn in the ballpark, which is revenue shared, versus what I earn outside the ballpark. The Atlanta Braves have developed a model, because we know their revenue structure because it's public, where they make anywhere from 60 to 80 million of revenues that aren't shared. They're made with their markets outside in the proximity of the ballpark. All of these things fans are not aware. We try to make CBA negotiations about player rights or player cost or all of those things, what we're spending. But, Rob Manfred came out in October and said, our game is strong. We're doing great. Our revenues went up from, by 7% from 11.3 to 12.1 billion. That went up, but yet what's the spend the next year? The spend the next year, there are 15 teams that have dropped their payroll. There are 4 teams that have dropped their payroll by over 30 million. There are now 8 teams that have dropped their payroll by 20 million, even though we have record revenues. So in answer to your question, Eric, is that we have maybe 8 teams that increased their payroll, but the majority are decreasing their payroll despite record revenues. So why are they doing that? And the answer is that there is no notice to the fans of what's our competitive commitment metric. What is that? How do we evaluate our team's commitment to our fan base for winning? And until we have that modality, until we register that, I don't think the fan can adequately appraise what a team is doing to remain competitive and make the league better in a major league environment.
By the way, so I just, before I ask about Pete Alonso, you're for the salary cap. I hear that in your voice, Scott. It's okay. We got it. You're for the salary cap. Now, no, we're going to get to that, but I want you, I got to ask you about Pete, okay? Because Pete,
No,
you came out.
anyway,
I know. We're going to get to that. I know, Scott. But it's fun. I love pushing your buttons. It's fun. So here's the thing: Pete Alonso, 3-year deal with opt-outs and all that stuff, right? But he only got those. You came out and said he only got 3 years. How is that possible for a guy that's been that productive his entire career? Is it because he's a first baseman and first basemen don't get paid? Because there should have been teams lined up to sign a guy that can hit you 40 to 50 homers every year.
AJ, first base, catchers, positional. We do not have first basemen who can hit at a ceiling of 50, over 50, or at a base of 35. Who do we have? Oh, we don't. Because you see, Prince Fielder, Mark Teixeira, Chris Davis, when I did their contracts, they got contracts because they all had the capacity to do that, to hit that, have that power. They all received contracts that were at the top tier of the major league level because they were free agents at an age of 29 to 30, and they were in the market. But the thing of it is that in our current market is that our good first basemen, Olson and Goldschmidt, signed before they were free agents, so their average annual values were lower. And then we had Freddie, who had signed an extension, and he wasn't a free agent until he's 32, past prime, so we can't use his contracts as a basis for what a premium aged first baseman with power is worth. So there was no current market upon which to adjust it. So, and I had mentioned this to Pete, is that with the qualifying offer and who you are, I have many examples, Matt Chapman and Snell most recently, who teams are coming and offering way below scale, saying, I don't want to give up the draft picks and pay you your market value because it's going to hurt our club. And so here we go. So the best thing I can do is bring a player optionality. We got him an average annual value in his first year of 30 million, which is appropriate for who he is in current times. Because, what would Freddie Freeman be worth today if he's 30 years old and he's a free agent? He would be worth $300 million. And so the reality of it is age and who they are, but having that qualifying offer, you understanding that there is a clear movement on the part of teams to say that with that QO, we're going to not do what we would normally do for unrestricted free agents, because that's what the QO is. It's a restriction, a dramatic market restriction. We're not going to do the same for them that we'll do for others. So we have to adjust to the CBA. We try to create contract modalities that bring some form of optimization to the player. But to suggest that Pete Alonso is not needed, that he is not valued. Also remember that Pete has over 1,000 OPS in the postseason. For winning teams, organizations, this is a rare quality that you have a star level player who also performs well in the postseason. And we don't need to discuss how dramatic his home runs have been and what value that brings to a franchise.
All right, here's the deal. Scott, can we give us 2 minutes? We got 17 TV networks watching us. Can we get 5 more minutes out of you on the other side, answer a few texts so AJ can get to his fun stuff at the end here?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay, be right back for TV Crowd.
Todd, my guess is the Cardinals were upset when he rejected the trade to Houston because that would have solved this whole problem. And by waiting, what happened? He lost his most desired landing spot, Boston, and now there seemingly is nowhere for him to go. John Mozeliak, their president of baseball operations, said yesterday, telling reporters, hey, he's got to expand his list of teams that he would be willing to play for, or else we're really kind of at a crossroads here, or at a roadblock. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Obviously, injuries could create a need elsewhere. We know the Cardinals are willing to pick up a significant amount of cash, but he's still signed for 3 more years. And even if you're getting him at 3 years, say $45 million, which is about what the Astros obligation would have been, it's still a good amount of money for a guy who has had pretty sharp offensive declines the last 2 years. Do I believe Nolan Arenado is still a really good player? Yeah, I do. And I think he can come back and be more towards what we've expected of him in the past. But he hasn't shown that. And that's really the biggest thing that, to me, is a problem here, besides the fact that he only has a limited number of places he wants to go. So at the moment, it looks like he'll be a Cardinal opening day, but you never know what might transpire in the weeks ahead.
Who does this hurt the most, Arenado or the Cardinals? Cardinals have young guys that they want to bring up. Obviously, they don't want to pay the money, but they're going to be eating some of this. They're getting, to me, Arenado's a draw. I get it. He's not the MVP candidate that he was, but he's still a Gold Glove candidate. So who's hurt the most here?
Both. Arenado's hurt because he wants to go to a place where he can win. The Cardinals, they haven't spent a single dollar in Major League free agency this winter because they are taking this approach where they're going to retool a little bit. Now, it's interesting to me, if you're going to retool, trade Helsley, trade some of your players with value, but they're not doing that. They are, in the last year of Mozeliak's tenure here, seemingly trying to put a presentable product on the field, which is fine. I have no problem with that, but they're kind of caught in between. And in this sport, we've seen time and again, you don't want to be caught in between. You want to be either going forward or kind of retooling and pushing for the future. So Arenado's hurt because he's not with a team that is really going for it. And the Cardinals are hurt just for the reason you said, Eric. They want to go forward. They want to save some money, right? Maybe get a prospect back for Arenado. And they want to play guys like Donovan and others at third base. And now he is kind of blocking that path for them.
All right, we're back. Scott, appreciate you hanging with us. Scott Boras talking to us about what just happened this past offseason. AJ, you want to get back to biz?
Yeah, I want to ask him because I kind of made a joke about it, but I want to know, like the salary cap, that's the big thing everyone talks about, right? Fans, agents, players, owners, everyone, GMs, everyone's like, oh, and after 26, when the labor negotiation's up, the CBA's up, there's going to be a huge fight. But don't we have a soft cap now, kind of? And some teams treat it like a hard cap, the luxury tax, and then they don't want to get over. Now, some teams don't care and they just blow it away, like the Dodgers and even the Mets. But isn't that already basically a salary cap? And you're not getting a cap, and you know this, Scott, without a floor. So how do we handle this, and what would your ideas be?
You don't, first of all, when we discuss CBAs, we have to talk about the business of baseball. We don't talk about labor only. We talk about, in the NFL and the NBA and the NHL, they have hard caps. And guess what? They had lockouts of 136 days in the NFL, 161 days in the NBA, and in the NHL, 119 days. So we know that in the relationship with labor, hard cap, or no cap, we still have labor relations to conduct. What are the principal problems in a CBA negotiation? They are always based upon, we have to understand that owners are talking about what we do, what they have. Well, what do they have? Revenue definition is a monster. And it's something where we have now all of the clubs wisely using the CBA and saying, how can I divert revenues? Real estate. A club has maybe, I bought the club for $500 million. I'm now worth $2.5 billion. I have $2 billion in equity that I can do what? I go out and borrow money. I invest in real estate near the ballpark, or I grow enterprises near the ballpark that generate revenues. I deduct the cost of the expense to the franchise and reduce my profits, saying that this is debt, a loan I have on the team. And in fact, they're using their equity to grow proximity-based wise business decision where they're making millions that aren't included in the revenue. So when we talk about revenue definition, we have a broad issue with how we define that. And that is one of the principal issues. The other thing is we now have defined the fact that Major League Baseball, in their approach to media rights negotiation, once the NBA deal was done, we have now codified the definition that this league is making 8 billion and we're making a little over 4, that a decade ago we created streaming. It was the measurement that basically cut the cord on cable. It was an MLB BAM right. Did they license it? No, they sold it. And now it was used against them where their RSNs are saying streaming is now affecting our market. People are cutting the cables. And yet they continue to operate in the cable market. So Milwaukee's a great example. The Brewers have double the dates of the Bucks. The Brewers have higher ratings than the Bucks, but the Brewers make substantially less than the Bucks in TV rights. Why? Because the right value of our media rights was not approached appropriately, and there's a dramatic diminution in revenues. So the biggest point that we talk about in CVAs should be maximization of revenues and definition of what revenues are. Then we'll talk about the minute point of the cost of labor and what that relationship with labor is. And with this understanding that we're having record revenues every year, yet the labor cost in 25 will be the same as they were in 24. There's no increase in the 40-man roster payments to players, yet the revenues are continue to go up. So all of these things, I think, with baseball, when you're talking about in 94, when we had a strike, the cost may have been $500 million for not playing games. Now that cost may be $4 and $5 billion for not playing 2 months. And what is the labor issue about? $1 billion, $1.5 billion? I don't think that lockouts and strikes are very good for our game and our potentiation advancing into our true media value. I think our focus in this industry needs to be widely on a revenue definition model, also for the fans know that the amount of contribution commitment to player payroll by percentage of revenue is something that should be posted so that fans are aware who's committed. Once we have those things, we can really discuss more competently about whether or not we need to adjust anything in the labor market.
Okay. I mean, you're the only one that really talks about this in a way that makes sense. So I love hearing this stuff from you. But I have two questions. One you can answer with a yes or no, and you're going to laugh at it. Why don't you become commissioner?
I've had opportunities in my life. AJ, to be a part of major league ownership, to shift sides, and I have the privilege of sitting down with parents and 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds at times, and you're making a commitment to a player. I always remember when I played, one of my teammates come up to me and goes, "You need to use an M110 instead of an R161." And he was a veteran major league player, or his name was John Young, and John passed a few years ago. He goes, "Look, kid, you got bats, but get rid of that big bat, do this, do that." And you know what? It really helped me. Players helping players. And I always said, in my life, I think I best serve the game. I best serve everyone in it by helping players be optimized. We spend millions of dollars. We have a sports fitness institute. We have 10 trainers. We have all these things, AJ, that are designed. We have the best medical coverage. We evaluate doctors. We have all these things to optimize players, to help contract execution, help players be better and perform better for our fans and perform better for the owners that they work for. We have psychologists. We tried to build a structure where we're committed to everything because, like all of us, everything we have in our lives has come from this game, and it means a lot to me. And I don't represent other sports. We don't what we do, so I'm always going to stay on the player side so that we can remain. I think our contribution to the game and who we are to players is something that represents something where a parent and a player at a young age knows that we're totally committed to their lives and will always be there for them.
So one of your players that is having a tough time and has been having a tough time since he signed with the Angels is Rendon. Injuries have been tough for him. How do you, as not only just a business, as a figure in his life, handle that situation?
You guys know that, particularly when you have big moments in your career and you want to be there at that time in that moment, and all of a sudden you have a physical injury. You have a debilitating injury where you can't play. And you have to deal with it every day. You have to explain what's going on with you and why you can't play. It's the worst thing in a player's life. When you add a substantial contract to that and the expectation from everyone involved, and you go in and all of a sudden you have, third baseman and hip surgeries. I've had 4 or 5 of them. And the minute the right one's done, years later, the left follows. The doctors tell you that. There's been an extraordinary, almost unbelievable path of injury related to Anthony's hips that have, he played well his first year with the Angels, and then it started one hip operation. He tried to gut it out last year. He really did. You could see that his performance levels were not at the level because the other hip was bothering him. And the best thing we can do is best medical advice, best doctors, try to do everything we can to get the player healthy. Remember that this is not about attitude. It's not about commitment. It's not about intent. It's about the lack of physical manifestation due to injury that would allow him to prepare and play at the major league level. And these things are unfortunate. Of course, clubs have opportunity to subrogate the cost of this, the risk of this, by using insurance carriers. Some do, some don't, to mitigate that so it doesn't affect their roster. I've been helpful with teams, and players have too, when these things have occurred and they have to retire, that we restructure the contract and register the players out, the payments out at more extended dates so it doesn't impact the roster. And we've certainly dealt with those situations that way to have better care for the player in the game and the owners involved.
Makes sense. Makes sense. By the way, I just forgot that you had played, so I looked up your OPS. You weren't a terrible player. I mean, but you do have some years where you're missing stats, which is weird to me. But seven
Yeah.
78 OPS, 778 OPS in A ball. That's not terrible. I mean, you could make yourself into an all-star now, Scott. If you played now, think about it. So I got to ask this.
Pop.
What was that?
Wait,
Repeat
say that again?
I was an on-base guy, no pop. A double was a big moment. Yeah.
Hey, that's because you were swinging R161. That's why you needed something more. The handle as big as the head doesn't work, right? So
Yeah.
But I got to ask you about deferrals, because the big thing with Shohei was he got the deferrals. Soto didn't get the deferrals. Now you have some guy that take deferrals, because if you look at Max Scherzer, who's one of your guys, I mean, he's getting paid from like 7 different teams this year, right? The Blue Jays, the Nationals. Heck, he might still be getting from the Diamondbacks when he signed, the Tigers back from 15 years ago. I mean, who knows, right? But what's your feeling on deferrals? Because fans are crying, oh, deferrals are the worst thing. The deferrals, the Dodgers. But to me, if a team can do it, why not do it if it helps your team for this year win and for years coming?
Yeah, these are financial calculations of time usage of money. And in some situations for the player, it's not. Juan Soto has no deferrals. Most of my free agent players do not have deferrals. Some do. It's really about our calculus of what that valuation is, of what that player should be paid. And with the Dodgers, with Snell, they paid us 50, a record signing bonus. Well, until Soto, a record signing bonus, but a record signing bonus of $52 million, and they deferred an equivalent amount, so that really it's not a deferral because they paid so much money up front. So how we do it is that we try to be open to the needs of the club and the ownership, and say, what are your needs, why, and then we just make sure that the player's true market value is exhibited inside the contract structure. And then we really kind of weigh and compromise that situation as we go in each individual situation.
All right, there you go. Yeah, a lot of people crying about deferrals, but we understand how net present value works.
Keep in mind that ebbs and flows of talent in sport are the key to a financial intellect. and success of a franchise. Because people always talk to me about how we evaluate teams and what we do. And this is our thing about salary caps. Salary caps are bad because they say you can only spend so much in a particular year. Well, in some years, may want to exceed it because the flow of talent is I'm going to go sign the greatest free agent. Now, my payroll is going to have to advance for 2 years until certain players exhaust their contracts, but I don't want to miss out on him. And so consequently, I want to go get him because he's going to be very important for the next 8 to 10 years. Well, if I have a salary cap, I can't go get that player. But if I'm smart in what I do and I'm going to have ebbs and flows, like I'm going to, in some years when I have young players and I'm not going to be as competitive, I'm going to spend less. In other years where I have championship modalities, I'll spend more. These are why salary caps in a talent driven sport are not in any way the best for ownership and or players, because you need to have flex as to what you spend at particular times. And also, if there's extreme talent available, you're going to go out and spend well above what you would normally for a couple of years just because you want to compete for the rarity of that talent that often isn't available in a 20-year scenario.
I could not agree more with that last part there, Scott. First of all, MLB has the most parity. And also, there are some teams that promise their fans that they're going to go through the rough times and then spend on the back end. Some do, some don't. We could spend hours talking about that. We've done that on the show. So, Scott, this was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you. And we'll see you at some point, hopefully in spring training, all right?
All of you have been around the game for a long time. And I ask one thing, and that is of how we show a competitive commitment on the part of major league teams. It is not small market, large market. It's how much of your revenues are you spending on a 40-man roster to show your fans you're committed. If we can achieve that challenge, if we can do that, we can give the fans to say, how do we measure how committed our teams are in line of their environment and who they are? And I think that percentage measurement is a way of giving a fan a batting average, an ERA for teams, whatever it is, so that we can get a better understanding of what our teams mean to the fans and what they do. I think it'll really better the game.
And some clubs aren't pulling their weight, and the power of media right here on this show is trying to put the pressure on. So, hey, we just saw a team that was kind of low get involved with Alex Bregman, which is a big sign. Red Sox could be a playoff contender again. So that kind of brings us full circle here. Yeah, to puffing the cigar. So,
That's
Scott,
right.
Thank you. This was awesome. Good to catch up. We'll catch you soon, okay?
And I want to know what your fine is. I want to know what your fine is in your kangaroo court in your office. I want to know because I heard it's going to be a hefty one. So get ready.
It's a clear, big office dinner. I've heard all about it. You are right. You
had a good offseason.
You have to ask AJ who bought John Henry that cigar. All right.
I think we know now. All right.
That's a good way to finish. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Appreciate you. All right, everyone watching on TV and, of course, everywhere else. Be right back. I mean, that is what we do. We bring on everyone and we let them roll.
Dude,
that
was
the power
gold.
of foul territory.
By the way, that was gold. I'm sorry. I mean, first of all, we got him to stay for a second segment, which was awesome. I know we're going to lose some other stuff along the way, but I'm okay with it. Like if you just kick me, Scott, and Kratz off and let him go, it'd be awesome. Because he explained things that most people don't understand. Like we've talked about. Who was it? It was a couple weeks ago, right? Where the tweet about revenue versus what they spend came out. I mean, that's his whole thing. That's his argument. Like, the Miami Marlins aren't making zero money this year. Whatever their payroll is going to be, $30 million. They're making more than that. So let's see what it is, and then that would involve them opening the books, and that's never going to happen.
But AJ,
I just thought
all we ask is that those teams then, when they do have their opportunity, they strike, and that's the part that bothers people the most. Is that you wait, and then the Pirates, the Mariners, right? They just smack you in the face and keep taking the profit. You take it on the front end, you take it on the back end. It's very frustrating.
Agreed. Agreed. I mean, what you just said was exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he structured it too, saying like there will be times when you have ebbs and flows of talent, but we can just name the teams right now that have a flow of talent. They've even said they have flow of talent, and yet they're like, well, we could bump up payroll a little bit. But what happened to all the money you saved the last 5 years building up to this point? You just pocketed it? No, you're supposed to have that to spend during this time and take your team to the dynasty that you build it up to be after you had tore it all down.
I want my super yacht and my World Series title.
And you can have it. You can probably get 2 super yachts when you win this World Series title. Just go listen to the Dodgers talk. Watch the ownership. They're like, yeah, that was awesome. We won. We got more now.
But my percentage chance of winning is not high enough versus how much the super yacht costs, where I can just pay that up front and you don't have to win it. You get it if you pay for it.
Sorry. I lived as a player. I'll die as a player. Competitiveness needs to be in ownership also.
There you go. And it is with some. All right. We'll get back to biz. We're going to actually preview the Dodgers. We're going team by team. Dodgers are next.
Not gonna lie. Not
You're
gonna
like,
lie.
Damn. What?
Not gonna lie, Alanna. I know you're an Arizona spring training person, but that's bull crap that we have Arizona. We don't have Florida in between breaks. Like, it's crap. I'm sorry, producer lady. She might get the boot for this because it's just Arizona. Where's Florida? I need to see Florida.
AJ, we're on TV. Nobody knows what you're talking about there. There's
okay, well,
thousands of people.
On the other place reviewed on YouTube in our breaks. Sorry. Now let's talk about that. Sorry.
Okay. Well, my thing was
Hi,
the great
Alanna.
Alanna Rizzo joining us right now, host of Dodgers Territory, sometimes on Foul Territory. We did just have Scott Boras on the show, and we were like, it's probably going to be a tough act to follow. Let's get Alanna because she's going to bring a smile to everyone's face. So you are given the next seat. How you doing?
I'm good. Good to be with you guys. I agree with everything that you're saying. I've been saying this for decades. The ownership group needs to spend money. And I know that everyone thinks I'm biased because I'm a Dodger girl, but every team of the 30 can spend money. Maybe not to the level that the Dodgers can, but every single team can spend money. They're just choosing not to do so. But happy to be with you. I wish I was in spring training right now. I'm heading down there in a few weeks because the weather in Massachusetts sucks.
Yes.
Well, you chose
weather
to live
in the
there.
Northeast sucks.
You chose to live there. You got to listen.
Someone else's fault. It's not Alana's fault.
Today.
It's someone else's fault.
69 degrees here. It's freezing in Florida. It's so cold. I had to put a jacket on this morning.
Oh, man. All right, so let's get to biz here. We got 10 minutes for team storylines for the Dodgers. Of course, you can hear a lot more on Dodgers Territory, which airs multiple times a week. But let's set up the storylines here first. All right, we've got 4 definites that we're going to hit here. So can this team win back-to-back titles? I mean, a lot of trolls on social media think the season's over already, so we'll ask Alanna what that takes. Two-way Shohei time, 50-50 last year at the plate, but now coming back to pitch. I'm curious, too, to see if Alanna thinks it'll affect his bat. Starting pitching shuffle. It's going to be fun. Who's going to be on the mound? Who's the starting 5 or really 6, obviously, for the Dodgers? 6-man rotation eventually once you get through those opening off days in the first few weeks. And then Mookie back to shortstop. What does that mean? All right, let's start at the top. We haven't seen back-to-back champs since the Yankees a quarter century ago. What does it take for the Dodgers to do this based on covering this game on a national level for years, Alanna? And at least for me, I've been fooled many times where I'm like, oh, this team's really good. They could do it again. And they almost always crash.
I think it has to be healthy, right? You have to have a team that stays healthy, everybody at the right time, at the most important time of the season. Do the Dodgers have the talent to go back to the World Series? Of course. And I think anything but a World Series appearance is going to be a disappointment for this club. I think if you look at the talent and the roster and the money that was spent in this offseason and last offseason, obviously with Shohei Ohtani, if the Dodgers don't get at least 2 or 3 or possibly 4 more World Series appearances / championships in the next 10 years, then everything that they did was likely a disappointment. This this is a team, guys, as you know better than anybody, that is built for October. Barring some sort of catastrophic occurrence, the Dodgers will be in the postseason. If you look at the starting lineup there, you can see that obviously you have the big guns at the top with Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Teoscar. Thank goodness he is back in the 4-hole. Max Muncy, then Will Smith, and then the bottom part of the order, Michael Conforto, new to the team, Hyun-Sung Kim, new to the team as well, Tommy Edman given an extension early on in the offseason. This is a hell of a team, and they have unbelievable arms, and they have unbelievable top to bottom as far as the lineup is concerned, but you need to make sure that these guys stay healthy throughout the year. Last year, I was very concerned about the Dodgers starting staff going into the season, and it proved to be a narrative all season long. And I believe very heartily that they did not have enough starting pitching. Dave Roberts ends up doing the best job of his managerial tenure to work through a starting staff that was decimated by injuries, going to the young guys that didn't have any big league experience, working that elevator between AAA and the big leagues, as well as any other team. They made it to the postseason, got through the Padres in the first round of the playoffs, which to me was harder than the Yankees in the World Series, and found a way to win using all of the different pieces that they had. But that takes a lot of people willing to buy into what the Dodgers are doing. It takes a lot of people being healthy at the right time. It takes all of that NBA load management that we've been hearing so much about to work these guys at the right time, get them built up where they're supposed to be, give them the rest that they're supposed to be, which is going to be a challenge when you have 3 Japanese-born pitchers in your starting rotation when Shohei comes back to pitch at the big leagues in May. It's going to be interesting, but the Dodgers have the resources, the capability, and the buy-in to be able to do so and go back-to-back and win another championship, because honestly, all things being equal, if everybody stays healthy and they're performing to their capabilities, who's going to stop them?
Nobody, Homer. But that's well.
But am I wrong?
No, you're not. But I'm gonna ask you about Shohei in a second in his pitching. But I went on their depth chart. You're just like injuries. Okay, so they have 10 starting pitchers listed. Blake Snell, 2 Cy Youngs. Yamamoto, whatever he won in Japan, a lot. Glasnow is one of the nastiest dudes in the league. Shohei, depending on what they do with him. Suzuki's supposed to be the best pitcher ever from Japan. Gonsolin, we've seen what he can do when he's healthy. Kershaw, first ballot Hall of Famer. Dustin May, if he's healthy, gosh, I mean, he's nasty. Landon Knack did stuff for him last year. Emmett Sheehan did stuff for him. That's 10. Okay, so let's say they lose 3 of those guys. They still have 7. Most teams don't even have 5 hardly, right? So, and they'll go out and get someone else if they have to. So it's an incredible. It's just too much. It's too much.
It's an insane amount of talent, AJ. I agree with you on that, but it's also a testament to the fact that people want to go to LA. I mean, for obvious reasons, LA is a destination, and this is an ownership group that puts their money where their mouth is. I mean, how many teams can be sponsored by their own ownership group with the patches on their jerseys? They're sponsored by Guggenheim. Guggenheim owns the team. I mean, that's just a very interesting flex, but you have a guy that was willing to tie his contract, one of the best players that we've ever seen, a generational player in Shohei Ohtani, tie his contract to president of baseball operations, Andrew Friedman. So if Andrew goes someplace else, Shohei has the opportunity to move also. That is an unbelievable amount of confidence in the front office. And let's think about this for a hot second. There's only 780 players that are good enough in the world to start a season on a major league roster. I think you would beg to differ that there's a lot of really, really, really smart businessmen, right? I think more people can be owners than can be major league baseball players. The talent is with the player. And if the player is choosing where he wants to go and quote unquote creating these super teams like they do in NBA, that says something about the Dodgers. That says something about the culture that they have created, that people want to play there. Teoscar wanted to come back to LA. Kike obviously wanted to come back to LA. Clayton is going to be one of the only guys to finish his career in the same exact uniform. He is there. He's obviously on the 60-day IL now, but he's going to come back perhaps in June, earlier than most people anticipated. This is a destination now. The Dodgers ownership group puts players on the field to give them the most amount of success. For whatever reason, the Dodgers seem to reinvent guys where they didn't have success in other players. They come to LA and they find themselves again. Blake Snell, 2-time Cy Young Award winner. Tyler Glasnow wanted to be there. It's just a culture that they've cultivated. It's a winning culture. I'll never forget when Jock Peterson was in the clubhouse at Camelback Ranch 3 or 4 years ago when AJ Pollock was a free agent and decided to sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers before, poor thing, he was traded to the White Sox. No disrespect, AJ. He comes into the Camelback Ranch clubhouse, and Jock Peterson, all of the outfielders were together in terms of their locker positioning. He said, "Welcome to the big leagues." And this was already after AJ had been in the big leagues with the Arizona Diamondbacks for quite some time. It's just a different culture in LA. And although it's going to be very difficult to repeat, this team certainly has the mentality and the resources and the want to do so.
Okay, so real quick, Alanna, what's Shohei going to give him in 25? Because we saw
I don't know
him run the 50-50, but I'm not talking about offensively, but pitching-wise. We saw him through a bullpen. They're going to be obviously extra cautious with him, but they can't send him on a rehab assignment. So how are they going to handle this? He's going to start, and then they're going to have one of their 10 other starters piggyback him and pick up those extra innings, because this is going to be where you talked about Dave Roberts doing his best job last year, but how he handles not only Shohei, but Sasaki and some of the other guys that are coming off injuries is going to be kind of a tough thing for him.
No question about it. And I think that's going to be the biggest puzzle piece of all, AJ, is how are these guys going to manage the workload, build up the start? Is Dustin May going to be a starter, or is Dustin May going to be in the bullpen? I want Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin as a bullpen piece because we have so many starting arms in that. But you're going to have to work up these guys and build them up to the point where they can possibly be starters just because of injury. We know that Tyler Glasnow, who I love, is injury prone. We don't know what Blake Snell's probably going to have to shoulder the majority of innings for this Los Angeles Dodgers team. I mean, this is a guy that has realistically and historically posted pretty much every fifth day. I mean, you look at the Dodgers starting staff in the first month, it's going to be run as a 5-man rotation, whereas all along we thought it was going to be 6 men. But because of the off days in March and April, you can run it as a 5-man rotation until Shohei gets back, in all likelihood, in May. Now, that being said, they're going to be incredibly cautious with him, right? Obviously, they're going to do so because they have the arms to not push him. Plus, he also has a $700 million price tag to make sure that they don't push him. And you're probably going to have to save Shohei from Shohei and make sure that as a training staff, you're making sure that he's ready to go. He had that first bullpen session. That was the first time fans and the media got to see Shohei Ohtani in a Dodgers uniform as a pitcher. And he looked really good. He only threw 14 pitches. It was all 2-seam, 4-seam fastballs, but he looked really good. Dave Roberts was pleased with what he saw, the way the ball was coming out of his hand. They're really good at being able to manage the workload of all of these different guys. And I have to say, they're very honest with them too, in terms of the communication with the training staff and how things are going. I mean, Shohei, if you paid attention to the bullpen session, he was having active conversations with everybody that was watching in terms of the training staff, Dave, Andrew Friedman, those types of things. So they'll be very cautious, but the luxury that the Dodgers have, they have so many really good aces in the starting staff, including Roki Sasaki, who obviously is a non-roster invitee, but everybody knows he's going to be on the big league roster when camp opens.
All right. Now you have to listen to the wording so that we get this right. Can Mookie Betts play a championship level shortstop? Or is he better suited for the team in right field?
I believe Mookie Betts is a better Gold Glove right fielder. But when you have Teoscar Hernandez in the outfield, when you have Michael Conforto now in the outfield, when you have Tommy Edman, who can play all over the place as your center fielder, Mookie Betts, who is very selfless, is going to be back at shortstop. Can he play a championship caliber shortstop? Absolutely. I think Mookie, above anybody, is the best athlete, period. Regardless of what the position is that he's playing, he's the best athlete on the field, not just for the Dodgers, but probably in all Major League Baseball. He needs to cut down on the defensive woes, but obviously that's something that he knows that he needs to work on. We had conversations on Dodgers territory with Dino Ebel, who is obviously the Dodgers' longtime third base coach. Now he's they're kind of switching roles with Chris Woodward being back in the mix, but Dino's going to be handling the outfielders now. Chris Woodward is going to be handling the infielders again. So both Chris Woodward and Dino Ebel have commented on the extra work that Mookie has already put in, knowing that he's going to be back in the infield as the Dodgers shortstop. Will he improve over where he was last year as a shortstop? Absolutely. It's Mookie Betts that we're talking about. Is he a natural born shortstop? No, but the man is a right field, Gold Glove right fielder. He's going to be fine at shortstop, and he doesn't have to shoulder all of the load because the Dodgers infield obviously is pretty good in terms of who they can maneuver and all of the moving parts of that infield.
Well, a lot more every single week, multiple times per week from Alanna and Clint Pasillas, plus VIP guests. I mean, they crush it. They get everybody.
Seriously,
So
don't be
you can
afraid to
check that
share,
out.
Alanna. Don't be afraid to share some of these Dodger guests with us.
As soon as you get me backstage at Morgan Wallen like you promised, I'll get you all the guests. All the guests.
You didn't
Whoa,
come.
whoa,
It
whoa.
got canceled.
Let-
They knew you were coming. It got canceled. What do you want me to do?
Listen, I mean, well, I'm going to Gillette in August 22nd. If you can get me behind the scenes there, then I'll get you all the guests that you want.
Well, I mean, I have to be there, though. That's the problem.
That's
Alanna.
fine. You can stay with us. You can come
I don't know if
stay
I
with
really
us.
want to go to Gillette. I actually did go to Gillette once. It was nice.
He only stays in 5-star hotels, okay, Alanna? So he doesn't stay in guest bedrooms.
No, especially houses with catcher's mitts on their mantle. No one wants to see
Hey,
that.
I married a catcher. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that says about me, but it is what it is.
There's so much catcher talk going on here right now. I'm just on the outside, but you can get a lot more on Dodgers territory. I mean, recent guests include Farhan Zaidi, Andrew Friedman, basically everybody currently on the team too has been on the show as well. Alanna, good to see it. We'll see you on Dodgers territory later.
All right, guys, take care. Good to talk to you as always. See you soon.
Yes. See you soon. FT fan, be right back. Breaking news. Frankie Montas is hurt. We'll cover it next. Hey, we're back. There's a lot of news, and obviously we gave Scott Boras a good chunk of time. So let me get to some of that news during the break. Extensions handed out. One for Mark Kratz through the 2029 season, one for JJ Picollo. Kratz, by the way, the Sacramento A's manager. Ooh, I got it right. And then JJ
Can't say that.
Picollo.
No. They're just the ATHs. They don't say.
What are you
going to
do? Arrest me? Arrest me.
Staff.
Come get me.
The
Come
app.
get me,
Arrest
ATHs.
me.
Yeah, take me. All right, and then the Kansas City Royals give out an extension to JJ Picollo, good fella. Through the 2030 season, he's running the front office for the Kansas City Royals. Let's hit both one at a time. I'll let Kratz go first. What?
How have we not had Kratz on, by the way? How have we not
Great
had
question,
Kratz?
Actually, AJ. Ask him. You know him
He
well.
must not have liked you. He must not have liked you.
Excellent.
There must be some kind of beef.
I'm going to have to, you know what I'll do? I'll have Gordon Beckham text him and ask him to come on. That's the only way we're going to get him.
Get
This
him.
is
I'll shoot him. I'll shoot him a text. We're going to Arizona soon, so don't worry. I'll see him and I'll humble him.
This is super random, but we talked about how the Rockies, like they just say in-house all the time. The Royals have done that for a long time, and they do a similar, like where they're just like, oh, we just want good guys. And yet they're not afraid to ask the tough questions and move guys around and make decisions that help the team win. But why can't the Rockies do that? The Royals do it. JJ Picollo has been there for a minute. A lot of those assistant GMs have been there for a minute. Dayton Moore's still kind of involved, and he's not even employed by the team.
It's a good call out. And Mark Kratz is an absolute soldier for handling Sacramento the way he's doing it so far. So, AJ, that's an easy one for you to comment on. He's one of the better managers in baseball, I think, and maybe a surprise team this year.
People are saying it. People are saying they think they might have a shot. I mean, they made some moves. They made some nice moves. They spent some money. If Rooker has another good year, Law Dog, I can't call him that because Matt Lawton was Law Dog, but if Lawrence Butler continues to grow and some of the other guys continue to grow, I think they have a shot to be very competitive in the next couple of years for sure.
I'm with you. Yeah, good extensions handed out, both sides there. Plus, I mean, the A's are on the pathway to somewhere, so they might as well have the guy that's a rock for them. And it's someone that wants to be there too, which stands out. When you're that talented, often you might be like, I'm going to go to free agency, right? He's sticking with the team. Injuries suck. This is a segment that gets play all season, but probably gets the most play in spring training. We're just days in. Here's one that's popped up. Mets righty Frankie Montas has a high-grade lat strain, according to his manager, Carlos Mendoza. He's going to be shut down for 6 to 8 weeks. He's going to get a PRP injection, and then once he does come back, they're going to give him a full spring training process. So I haven't seen exact math, but
see you in July.
Yeah, halfway through the season, if that. This is someone who's battled some serious injuries in the past and taken a while to get himself right. They signed him for 2 years, $34 million. This was the risk with the way that they're operating with starters, right? AJ chose to go more of the Montas route, the shorter term guys, the experiments. It worked out beautifully last year, but it's not always the case. I'm not going to criticize the player, but I did criticize the organization for this signing. So did the other two people that you see on the screen right now. This was not one I felt good about, and it's not off to a good start. He's an injury-prone starter for many years.
Yep, that's it. It sucks. It sucks to say injury-prone, but he didn't pitch for 2 years, signed 1 year with the Brewers, right? Or the Reds, got traded to the Brewers, and now he signed it, and he has he had a good year, I guess. I don't know, a decent year. And then showed some flashes at the end, yeah. And then now he signs a 2-year deal, and the Mets are like, here's $30+ million. You had to see this coming. It's as much as it sucks, and people want to get on Rendon, and they want to get on this guy for being hurt and this guy for being hurt. Frankie Montas is kind of flown under the radar, but don't forget, when the Yankees made that trade for him, he was supposed to be the next in line to be another big star for him and never really pitched, right? And then he becomes a free agent, signs, and miraculously he pitches again, and then now he signs a 2-year deal, and now he's hurt. I mean, you never want to see anyone get hurt. But gosh, this is just a vicious cycle, man, that he seems stuck in, and we need him to get out of it.
Will this push them to make that move that they should have made before? That trade move? Because they don't want to go long-term. So if you have a starting pitcher, Luis Castillo, Dylan Cease, hey, you know what? We could kind of get into the water. To me, that would be a major, major upgrade for this Mets team, because that would be somebody that would solidify it. Now, all of a sudden, you have Manaea as a number 2. Not saying he would slide in behind Castillo, but he would definitely slide in as a number 2 behind Dylan Cease. Like, maybe this is the type of move, or this type of something like this happens. Now they might jump into that trade market land. I don't think they will, because they liked what they had, but it's interesting.
Kodai Senga's super talented, but he's also had a lot of injury issues in his career. I get it. They're arms. They're injury prone. But there are still some players that you can bank on more than others. Yeah, for Montas, the last time he had an ERA plus that was above league average, so above league average pitcher, was for a full season 2021.
What do we always say?
Oakland A's.
Shoulders is what he ended up coming down with when he came to New York. Not saying he had it before he got there. However it happened, shoulders are tough. They are so tough to come back from. So tough.
Yeah. And, when we criticized the deal at the time, we caught some flack online from people that were like, he was a different guy with Milwaukee. I'm like, he was there for 5 minutes. Relax. He's been in the league for a while. You do go to different orgs and try different things, and it can totally work. Sean Manaea is the ultimate story. We've talked about him many times and what he did last year. But Sean Manaea has also been on the field a lot more, and still, even at his low times, has just been much more consistent. I mean, Montas still put it together a 4.5 ERA. Right? In that range. No, 4.84 ERA last year.
Can I just say this? Like,
what?
He was a different pitcher. Cincinnati, he had a 5.01 ERA. Milwaukee had a 4.55 ERA. It's not like he went from crazy good to crazy. I mean, from good to really good. I mean, he went from below average to a little bit around average. I don't know. I mean, what's considered average? I mean, ERA plus, he went from 88 to 92. That's still below league average, right? So maybe they're banking on another year. He's going to continue to go up and up and up. But, I mean, this was the risk of signing this contract that we knew. I mean, listen, Frankie Montas has made a lot of money. Now I need him to stay healthy and go out there and pitch, please.
So when that was going on, and I did a little back and forth. I love to do that with fans. I got hit with look at the strikeout rate. Look at the strikeout numbers. I'm like, yo, I love strikeout rates and strikeout numbers, and I believe in changes. But I'm like, it is such a small sample size without remembering what the game log was, who was he facing, all of that. Just a really small sample size. And it was a 2-year contract for $34 million to get the insurance in case something like this happened with an opt-out in case he was amazing. I'm fine with opt-outs. It's usually a good situation. But for this kind of pitcher, I was surprised that he got really nice money and an opt-out on a 2-year contract. It just is what it is. So now it's Senga, it's David Peterson, who was awesome for them last year, really broke out finally. Clay Holmes, who's going to learn how to be a starter this coming season. You usually worry about a pitcher fading down the stretch, even if it does work out in the first half. Paul Blackburn coming back from serious injury. Griffin Canning, who has not been good, but has been pretty healthy usually. And there's others, right, that are going to be competing for spots. But the rotation compared to the Phillies is a massive difference. And even right now, the rotation compared to the Braves. Again, I like the Mets. They can finish first, second, or third in the division. But when Erik Kratz received so much crap for saying they're a third-place team, he was not off.
I'm on probation with Mets, so I have only 9 words that I can say before Mets fans get on me again. But depth is key in a tough division. Mets need more depth, and it's going to be tested right out the gate.
It is. All right, we'll see if the Mets trade for someone. If you're watching this later on and you can comment, let us know who you'd like to see them get and how you think this rotation is set up compared to the other 2 big contenders in the division, which in that case, we're going to find out about one of them right now or in a few minutes. We're going to talk to Scott Coleman, Hammer Territory host, and go over the Braves team preview on FT. All right, here we are. Whew. Injury we probably won't get to. Let's do a fun one. It's not an injury. He's coming back from injury. Did you guys see Brandon Nimmo? Who's a great interview. When you get him, he's awesome. So he's coming back from plantar fasciitis. He was battling that in the playoffs. He did all kinds of things in the offseason to get himself back. I know it's tough. They asked him how he's doing. He goes, I'm up to 91%. So how you feeling? I'm 91%. And of course, he meant 91% in his running progression, which is measured against his previous top speed. This tweet coming from Anthony Tacoma, who covers the team. He said he's going to take things slow this spring. He continues to believe that he can make up that missing 9% before opening day. I just thought it was a fun little chat. Hey, how you feeling? I'm 91% technically by the numbers.
I love when guys, especially high school kids right now, up here, because in Florida they're already playing. Up here they're like, yeah, I'm throwing a bullpen. It's 80%. What did you hit? 87 miles an hour. It's my PR, but I was just 80%. So I'm like, 80%. Okay, so you tell me you got another 16 miles an hour in there? Like that's what 80% is? Like 91% of your sprint speed? I'm so glad they didn't have sprint speed stuff till the end of my career. Oh, that would have been just demoralizing for me.
AJ, did you ever do the percent game when they asked you how you were?
Yeah, I always said I was 100%. There was no percentage. It was, I'm ready to go. Are you kidding? What am I going to say?
Yes.
80. No. How do we feel? Let's go. I'm ready to go. Because if I can play, that means I'm 100%. There was either 100% or 0. If I couldn't play, it was because I literally had something hanging off something. I was missing a piece if I wasn't playing.
Because broken isn't hanging off. Broken is just broken. It's not hanging off. You can play with broken.
That's not true, because what I did with my wrist, I broke it and there was a piece hanging off, and they were debating whether to surgically repair it or not. So technically, there was a piece hanging off.
But it was still connected to your body, so you could still play.
True.
It's the new age way of how to answer your percent. And we're playful on this. Nimmo's great, so not criticizing him. I like that he used data to explain the percentage of where he's at.
If they would have done that with me, luckily I never pulled a hamstring or anything. So because when you don't run fast, it's hard to pull stuff. But if they would have done it on me, how would they have known if I was running the same speed or not? Because slow is still slow.
Plantar fasciitis sucks.
Hammer Territory host Scott Coleman joining us right now on Foul Territory. Big crowd in the Atlanta area, really in Braves country, all in the Southeast that's watching right now. So we're excited to have you on, Scott. It is the most downloaded Braves podcast, so go check it out. And we're going to get right to biz because we got a lot to cover with the Braves. So let's hit the storylines. Don't rush me. Ronald Acuna back again from a major lower body injury. We'll see how he does with the knee. Chris Sale's encore. We'll see how he does. How often do they maybe rest him to make sure that he is ready for a postseason run? But you also got to get in. Spencer Strider coming back soon. And is there a shortstop void with this team? Should they have gone after somebody to handle the infield and move Orlando Arcia to more of a bench role? All right, let's start at the top. Ronald Acuna Jr., super important part of this team. They didn't have him for a good chunk of last season. What do you think of what they've said so far and what Ronald has said?
Yeah, I think the Braves probably learned a lesson a couple of years ago when Acuna tore his ACL the first time. And while he was still good by at least maybe the league standards, Ronald Acuna Jr. was not the superstar level player that we all have come to see. When he returned in 2022 after he tore his ACL the first time, it never looked like Ronald felt comfortable. And because of that, I think the Braves are showing extra caution, and not only just this spring, but even in the offseason. Alex Anthopoulos said, I think at the winter meetings, that Ronald was not going to be on the opening day roster. And that's a significant statement when you're still 4 months away from opening day at that point. So I think the Braves are going to be overly cautious with their superstar outfielder. And if it means that if you have Acuna closer to 100% whenever he does make it back to the field, maybe in late April or even at some point in May, I think the Braves are probably playing the long game here and just banking on Acuna being more of himself, because we know how high his ceiling is when everything is clicking and when he is feeling good.
Speaking of guys feeling good, last year Chris Sale, my boy, or as my bae, as Kratz likes to call him, because I caught his debut and I've known him for a long time, so Kratz is jealous that nobody likes him that much. See, here we go. But can he do it again? He's 36. He had an unbelievable year. Cy Young, the whole enchilada. Kind of tweaked his back at the end. Had a full healthy offseason. Can he do this again and be a Chris Sale? Because they're going to need him to be the Chris Sale he was last year, especially with some of the guys they've lost.
Yep. I mean, I know Chris has been on the show a couple of times. This time a year ago, of course, he's going to have confidence in himself as a competitor and someone who's been doing it at a high level for a long time. But I don't even know if Chris Sale would have told you that he had 18-3 with a 2.4 ERA and leading baseball in WAR still in him. But Sale was so impressive last season. And I think the Braves handled him perfectly a year ago. I was looking at this earlier. Chris Sale made 29 starts last season. He had at least one extra day of rest in 22 of those 29 starts. And I don't think it's a coincidence that up until that very final week of the season, when the back spasms popped up, that Sale was just so dominant basically every single time he went out there. So I would imagine the Braves are going to have a very similar plan. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you're absolutely right. I think protecting Sale and keeping him healthy and hopefully ready for the playoffs should that time come is going to be the priority. And if that means that they have to call up somebody from AAA to make a spot start or to give Sale an extra day of rest, I think you do it, because we know just how good this guy is whenever he's been healthy. I mean, not even just last year with the Braves, but basically his entire career. When Chris Sale has been healthy, he's been awesome. And the Braves are really going to need him in that rotation, especially with guys like Max Fried and Charlie Morton moving on.
Sale stayed healthy all the way till the very end, but other key members of that core of that team did not stay healthy. Is this going to be a trend moving forward here going into 2025, or have they figured out how to hopefully curtail that from happening again?
It's a big question, and I just have to think that after just an all-time unlucky season for the Braves with injuries last year, that they're due some good fortune from the baseball gods. I mean, just a quick rundown for folks if maybe they aren't Braves fans. This is like an abridged version of what this team lost last year. Spencer Strider missed basically the entire year. Acuna tore his ACL in May. Austin Riley broke his hand and missed the final 2 months of the season. Ozzie Albies broke his toe and then broke his wrist. Sean Murphy, their all-star catcher from a year ago, had a nasty oblique injury on opening day, missed 2 months, and basically wasn't himself all year. Michael Harris, their five-tool center fielder, missed 2 months with a hamstring. AJ Minter, who's been one of the better lefty setup men in the game for the past couple years, had a hip injury and ultimately underwent surgery. And honestly, I mean, the microcosm of the season, guys, was friend of the show, Whit Merrifield, joins the Braves as an injury replacement for Ozzie Albies at second base. And Merrifield, on his very first day in Atlanta, has a nasty finger injury in pregame warmups and ends up missing time. And Whit's been one of the more tougher Iron Men in the game for his whole career. And what happens when he shows up and he's in Atlanta for 1 day? And then he needs to miss time with a finger injury. He also hurt his foot too. So, I mean, by the end of the year, the Braves were starting 3 waiver claims basically every night because of all the injuries they suffered. And I mean, it's a credit to them for still winning 89 games and getting into the playoffs at the very end. But man alive, I mean, if the Braves come even close to the number of injuries they had last year, I don't know what they need to do in that clubhouse, because that would be all-time bad luck in back-to-back years.
And all of that, all of those injuries, and their all-star shortstop from 2023, Orlando Arcia, had one of my really good friends, had an abysmal year. And somehow they still made the playoffs. So if you think the Braves are, they're out, down and out, don't you just forget exactly how good this team is. But that shortstop position, are they going to just roll with O? Are they going to then say, okay, we're just going to keep an eye on it the whole time? Because it's tough to find big league shortstops. Could it be a trade partway through the season? Or is there a prospect in the pipeline that might be able to be that next answer at shortstop for them?
It sure seems like they're going to roll with Orlando Arcia again at shortstop. I'd be fascinated to know behind the scenes what work the front office did to try to improve that position. And the story the Braves will tell you publicly is they feel that if everybody is healthy, or at least mostly healthy in that lineup, if Orlando Arcia is batting ninth and playing good defense and just giving you a little bit of offense in that ninth hole at shortstop, they're going to be fine offensively. That being said, that was their plan a year ago, and then half of the team got hurt, and there was a stretch where Arcia was batting fifth because he had had a couple of good games in a row, and it's like, who else is going to hit here? Why not have him bat fifth? For Arcia, he just wasn't very good last season offensively. He was really, really bad with runners in scoring position, and it felt like by the end of the year, it was almost a mental block for Arcia where he would come up with 2 runners on base and just the at-bat and the approach was all off, and just it was in his head at that point. So I think the Braves, they're just hoping and banking that Arcia is more of the player he was in 2023 when, funny enough, he had a great first half and was actually an all-star. And then just hope that it's more of 2023 than the player who struggled quite a bit last season.
Scott, great insight. Of course, you hear all of this, plus the FT hat that he's wearing on Hammer Territory, many episodes every single week. When there is breaking news, they're out there instantly with an emergency episode. You can see Scott and Brad there, 2 others as well. It's a 4-team crew to make sure that they've got you covered for Braves coverage all year long. Many, many episodes right after games too, kind of serving as your post-game show. So, Scott, great to see you. Thanks for the insight, and we'll see you on Hammer.
Thanks, fellas. Great to talk with you all, and happy to have baseball back.
Yes. Spring training time is beautiful. And we've got a lot of drama. We've got more today, a little update to the Devers-Bregman position battle. Here we go. BetMGM futures. We're looking at the Kansas City Royals number at 82.5 right now. Erik Kratz, former Royal, over under 82.5.
What am I missing? Should this not be an over? Should this not be an over? Am I too homerism? Am I following what happened last year too much?
No, you're not. I'm going to take the over, but I think it's close because there's good competition in that division. Tigers are going to be better. Twins aren't bad. Guardians are going to be good. I mean, they won the division last year. Obviously, the White Sox are the White Sox, and I'm missing one other team, right? Or no, I think I got them all now.
Tigers, Guardians.
I said Tigers. Yeah.
Tigers are better.
I got them.
Forgot the Twinkies.
No, I said Twins.
I mean, if you think they're a 500 team, to me, just the fact that the White Sox are in the division and they're going to play them 13 times should push them over. Should push them over that 82.5. I think they're more like an 85 to 87 team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. I mean, I think
today.
people aren't counting them though. I think people aren't counting the Twins to have the collapse they had, the White Sox to be as bad as they were last year. So I think that's why they won, 82.5. They're over 500. They've done some nice things, but people aren't counting those factors outside to help them because what they go like 12-1 against the White Sox last year, something crazy. So people aren't counting on them to do that again.
There's room for improvement.
Yeah, and they stayed pretty healthy as a ball club. That's always a thing, right? I mean, compared to others, I'm sure there's a Royals fan that's watching. We lost so and so and so and so for. I get it, but they were a pretty healthy team last year. They're not the deepest team yet. It's not a powerful team, but they're building the team the way that it should be built for that ballpark. The on-base percentage should be better. That was the biggest problem. So we'll see what happens. All right, Kratz, brag about what you've been up to lately. I actually played in a few tournaments last night too, the BetMGM Poker Winter Online Championships happening right now. $1.5 million in guaranteed sheesh. And Kratz has one of those trophies from last year. Does not have one yet this year, so the pressure is on. I got bounced pretty early. I was aggressive in my tournaments last night. Kratz, good luck to you. How you doing so far? You finished in the money in one already, right?
I got some money in one yesterday, a little $50 tournament. Appreciate that for everybody who participates. It's out there for you. Like the guaranteed money is huge. You don't have to put much in, and there is big cash payout. Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
We've got an update to the position story that we were hitting at the top with the Red Sox. What's going to happen here? And in my mind, it's already getting ugly. Let's run the tweets first, and then we'll get the reactions. We've got 3 for you. Alex Cora on the front office promise of Devers playing third base for the Red Sox. Quote, Chaim, talking about Bloom, is in St. Louis now. That was from a Boston Strong Twitter account. Rob Bradford covers the team. Wrote this tweet. Devers said he flat out won't be anything but a third baseman. They asked him about DHing on Friday. His answer was the same thing that he gave the media. No. Chris Cotillo. Quote here. It was definitely a surprise. I'm somebody that believes in people's world. I take it to heart. It was very surprising they'd suggest that. Since the beginning, I've known this is a business. Each side is going to do what's best for them and what's most comfortable for them. I don't think this was the right way to do business, but I've always known this is a business. I'm assuming I didn't see that this is a quote coming in from Devers, that last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, basically saying he took the Red Sox at their word that he would be a third baseman, and now they're going back on it. It's basically what he's saying. Not world. When you said world, it was word. Word.
Oh, sorry. Okay, word. Yeah. But it said word in the tweet, but it is world. This stuff's coming in hot. This is breaking news. Devers was not a good third baseman last year. He was battling a bit of an injury with his shoulder. Even at his prime, he will not touch Alex Bregman at third. We did this debate already. Also, by the way, AJ, remember they were going for Nolan Arenado? What would have happened then? They're going to put Nolan at first base? I mean, same kind of concept here. Obviously, I stand on a different side here, but is this being handled the right way when just a year ago, I dig up quotes at this very time in spring training, quote, everybody knows what we need. Here's another quote. I think they're thinking more in the future, said ownership needs to make an adjustment to help us players to be in a better position to win.
That sums it up. I mean, what Alex Cora said is the quote of the quotes. Chaim Bloom's not here anymore, so guess what, Rafi? You get what you get, bro. You're going to play wherever we tell you to play because he's not going to pull a what's his name, Stroman, and be like, I'm not going to play. Like, he's going to play. So, I mean, he doesn't want to be a DH clearly. So, you're going to claim that no, they're not going to trade you. So you got to play where you play. And right now, that's why Alex Bregman, at least to start, is going to be the second baseman.
Kratz, year 2 of a 10-year contract. Alex Bregman, if it plays right, will be a free agent after this year. There's feathers being ruffled and a balance, but Alex Cora's actually got a lot of power and a lot of might as a manager, right? He's one of those guys that kind of says it with his chest. So how do you think this is going to play out when he's already setting little ground rules here and saying, Chaim Bloom promised you third base. I didn't promise you third base.
It's going to play out really well because Alex has that cachet in the clubhouse. He has the ability to connect with those guys, and he's already done it. If he came in as a first-year manager and said this stuff, whoa, like this is our MVP candidate year in and year out in Rafi Devers. He's now managed Rafi. He has given him probably some platitude on different things, and he has probably been like, hey, you can't be doing this, and he's going to have those conversations. If he says it here, I don't believe, and I don't know Alex well enough, but from what I'm perceiving, I don't believe this is the first time he's told Devers this stuff. And it's okay that Devers says something and that Alex says something. It's up to him to put the best team out on the field and to get those guys to play their best wherever they're playing.
So how does this play out? Have you guys ever witnessed something like this? Would you be disappointed, AJ, if you're a veteran on the team and you just saw your franchise player who's been begging for more activity? It happens to be a guy that plays your position and he's giving them a hard no right from the jump.
Would I be disappointed? No. I'd be like, okay, guys, I get it. Everybody wants to win and everybody wants to play. Of course he's going to say this because he wants to play third base. But at the end of the day, it's not his decision. It's the organizational's decision. So we'll see how this plays out, but I wouldn't be disappointed at all. I'd be like, yeah, I get it. Rafi Devers wants to play third base. Good for him. Guess what? It might not work out.
It's not a player thing. This is just a Rafi Devers thing. Like, this is not like Tristan Casas isn't like, oh man, I hope Rafi's okay with this. Like, players are going to go and get their stuff done, but it's up to Cora to be able to get the most out of their team. Whoever that means, he needs to talk to. If you can't talk to one of your superstars, that could really hurt the team because that is where the Red Sox will live and die on, is if Rafi Devers has a good season. Other people can't pick up what he adds to this team.
Okay, I got to do role play for a moment because you got to walk me through this because you guys are former players. Who wants to sit in the chair and be Rafi Devers right now while I'm the organization?
I've never been a superstar, so it has to be AJ.
Okay, AJ, come into my office. I hear that you will only be a third baseman. Bregman's a better third baseman. We love you to death. We're signed. You have a long-term contract with us. We paid you more than I think anyone in franchise history. You also blasted us last spring, said we weren't being aggressive enough. This was the guy who we were able to land. All the projections say that we will be at our best and give you the best chance to win this year if he is playing third and you are mixing in with a little bit of third, maybe a little bit of first if you want, mostly DH. I get you're young. You had a shoulder injury that was bothering you last year. Why don't you just mash? Maybe you'll have the year of your life. We're giving you this opportunity. We're not saying you're never going to play the position again. What do you think?
Nope. I want to play third base.
So you care more about playing the position that you want than making the playoffs.
What did they say?
Just want to be clear.
Okay. Yeah, I'm telling you exactly how that conversation would go. Nope, I want to play third base.
Okay, so you prefer
trade me or bench me.
You're not tradable. It's year 2 of a 10-year deal.
Okay.
So
come
you don't
on,
want to play.
Alex.
You're
Come
protesting.
on, Alex. You got to
don't
come
wanna
up with
play?
Trade me or bench me.
I am
Trade me or
Alex.
bench
I'm
me,
here.
Alex. Trade
Can't
me or bench
trade
me.
you. Can't trade you. So okay,
Then
I just
bench
want to be
me.
clear.
Bench me and let's
Not
see how
benching
that
you.
plays out in Boston.
Not benching you. Okay, just want to be clear
Okay.
on
Then
whatever
guess
day
what
that
I'm
ends
playing.
in Y.
And guess what I'm playing? Third base. Because guess who said they've already played? They would play second base. Alex Bregman, the guy you signed. He could only be here for 1 year. I don't want to mess up Rafi Devers mindset because he's going to be there longer. According to what you said, Scott Braun, this was a 1-year deal for Alex Bregman. So you don't want to mess up Rafi Devers for 1 year. Make him go through all this bull bleep for what could be 1 year of Alex Bregman. And then you have Christian Campbell coming. So you're going to take Rafi Devers out of his position he's played his whole life for possibly 1 year, because when Christian Campbell gets there, guess where he's playing? Second base. Guess who's not going to be there? Alex Bregman. Guess who's going to have to be your third baseman? Rafi Devers. You want him pissed off for no reason? No, you put Bregman at second base, see how it goes.
I'm going to keep pushing this. So Yoshida gets traded. I eat most of the money. A team needs a bat. Okay. Christian Campbell's hitting 600 in spring training. We can't not bring him up. He's going to play second base. I need Bregman at third. I need you at DH. And I think we can win a World Series title. Wait, I'm setting up a scenario that's not completely unrealistic. Opening day, AJ playing Rafi right now. Opening day, you show up to the park. I have you written in as DH. Will you show up and give me 4 or 5 at-bats?
He's going to play if you put him there, but that doesn't mean he's going to be happy. And you don't want disgruntled players on your team. You don't. And I know Alex Cora has been like a Svengali talking to these guys, and that's cool. But you don't want a guy who's your long-term solution that you signed to be the face of your franchise for the next 10 years to be unhappy opening day.
I just want to be clear then which side you guys are taking, which is fine. But AJ, should Alex Cora have said what he said then? Because wouldn't he have just said, we'll handle it, it's all good? He said, Chaim Bloom promised that. He's not here anymore. I didn't promise him third base. So should he have said that?
That's what he feels. Say whatever he wants. He's a grown man. Say what you want.
If he's willing to fight this fight that you are having. And if I were you, Scott, if I was in the Alex Cora and I was going to the superstar to my left over here, I would have said, how bad do you want to win a World Series? How bad do you want your legacy? Because you're going to get your numbers whether we put you at DH or we keep you at third. How bad do you want to win the World Series? And that's how I would have approached it with Devers, because he's been there. That's why he signed back. He got his cash. And I wouldn't have put anything else out there, because he would have had to answer that to my face as the manager to find out where he's at with being able to move. Can I still keep you as a third baseman if this year you're not our third baseman?
I know how these guys communicate, especially
But also,
Cora.
I'm
He
gonna tell you
already
this.
talked to him and Devers said no. And so now he's starting to make it a little public to try and apply pressure, because you will have the fans tilt away from you if you're saying, I don't care as much about wins and losses. I care about my position for 2025.
Also say this. Yes. And I'm going to say this too. You know what Rafael Devers is saying? I'm a third baseman. I got a chance to go to the Hall of Fame as a third baseman. Leave me at third base.
Great. I'll see you in 2026 at third base, maybe.
You don't want to lose that year of him, Scott. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. If you don't think
So
Alex
what if
Bregman
Christian
is coming
Campbell
back,
is rookie of the year, the next big thing? Where do you play him?
Well, I mean,
you got to figure it out. What if Trevor Story goes out and gets injured? Can Christian Campbell play shortstop? Who knows? What if
Well
Alex
enough,
Bregman
actually.
comes in and has
Yeah.
a bad year and he opts in for 2 more years? Then what do you do with Christian Campbell? Do you trade him?
No.
I'm just saying, I can play what if all day.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, as a player, when the team comes to you, you don't want your superstar pissed off. You just don't want him pissed off. You don't want him to be mad on opening day, first day of spring training. You just want your superstar to be focused on what he needs to be focused on, which Rafi Devers is go out there and hit homers off Garrett Cole and make his life miserable, right? Make him walk you. Make him,
Yeah,
you know what?
which he can do as a DH. I would just be pissed, honestly, if I'm on the other side. If this is what the decision is from the front office and the team, I would be pissed that he's not at least saying,
if I'm
I'll
Rafi
do
Devers
whatever's
and we're
best for
playing
the
role
team.
play, I'm pissed this became a public thing and that the front office went and made it a public thing, because I'm like, we could have had this conversation behind closed doors. Why is the manager having this with the media? It works. See how players think. Because then you know what the player does? The player goes to another player and the player goes, you're right, he shouldn't have said that. And then the next player goes to the next player in that locker room and goes, man, he shouldn't have said that. And I love Alex Cora. So I'm sure there's been conversations that I've already had, but this is how it works in a locker room. Man, right? Am I wrong, Kratz? If you're in New York, right, and Aaron Judge, if Aaron Boone would have come out and said something about, hey, Aaron, hey, putting him in a spot, guess what Aaron Judge does? He goes to the next player and goes, man, can you believe Booney said this about me? Look at the newspaper. And then that player's not going to side against Aaron Judge. He's going to say, yeah, you're right, Booney shouldn't have said that. And then the whole clubhouse starts talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And it becomes a thing that it doesn't need to become.
No, you're right. Giancarlo Stanton had some interesting words spoken about him from Cashman last year, saying whatever, he's going to get hurt. And then he bashed a bunch of postseason homers for the team and said, take that. So I do think you can also just play like a stud and then make everyone happy.
Yeah, but for him to be at his best, he thinks he has to play third base. And that's his
So did Eloy Jimenez thought he had to be at his best playing the outfield. And
Different.
He kept getting hurt.
Not talking about players.
Close to the same.
No.
Player.
I understand.
We're talking about superstars. And here's the bottom line. I don't know if it even applies to this. Not everybody on the team is treated equally. They're all treated fairly. Superstars are way different. If you're a manager that tries to treat everybody equally, you're going to be a 500 manager the rest of your life. That's how it goes.
You're going to be fired. You're going to be fired quick.
Yeah, you'll be fired for sure.
I just remember sitting with Tony La Russa and him saying, we need Eloy to be a DH. This outfield experiment's not going well, and he's getting hurt. And I'm like, well, tell him. He's like, we do, but he's really fighting us on it. And I'm just like, damn, that sucks because he doesn't know what's best for him, and he would have made more money because he would have had less injuries. But I know it's not the perfect example. I'm just saying it does happen a lot. When Bowden comes on later this week, he can tell us the story about Alfonso Soriano because they had a battle. He played, I think he moved to left field, and he had the best season of his life. Anyway. We'll swing right back. Good conversation here on FT. We'll slap hands. We got more news to hit. Final segment. Also, did you guys see Giancarlo Stanton's hurt? He's got tennis elbow in both elbows.
I mean, how do you get that? Does he play tennis amphibious?
Man. I actually have respect
for him. That was a joke.
Now,
I know it's a
joke, Scott.
I know. I got it. I got the joke. I got it. I just have respect for the fact that he's still battling through all this. Like for a moment, you're like, damn, come on, dude, stay on the field. And now you're just like, I mean, this guy's body is breaking down and he was a postseason monster. He's not going to swing a bat for 3 to 4 weeks. Unsure if he can be ready for opening day. Very high level of pain in both elbows. He said he'll have to play through that pain when he returns from those elbow injuries. And there's a quote here. He's like, look, tennis elbow or whatever they call it, tears in your tendon. So when you ask, when did it feel good? When did it feel bad? There's always a pain level there. You've got to deal with it. It's just the wisest point to give him time right now. Kind of need him though.
Get healthy.
Kind of need him. I'm not pitching a Judge in April.
Cashman called it last year. Is that what we're supposed to say, Scott? Is that what you want us to say? I mean, I know it sucks. I mean, honestly, this guy mashing homers.
No, I'm just giving the news. I think this one actually really hurts for them this year more than last year because they had Soto. Are you pitching around Judge in the beginning of the season, guys? Who are you scared of?
Who's hitting behind him?
The whole season.
The whole season. Judge ain't getting nothing to hit this year.
I'm facing last year. I'm pitching around Judge. Like you got to be able to deal with. You got to be able to deal.
And Austin Wells in behind him.
Like you got to deal with. You got to deal with where you're at in the lineup. Pitching around Judge means I'm missing in the areas that he struggles in. That's it. Like I am not letting him hit anything middle in to down. Like I am Stanton. And if I walk him, I walk him. I'm doing that all year with Stanton in the lineup, without Stanton in the lineup. It's just a matter of how you go about the line, how you attack the batters.
The difference is, guys, Soto's not on base every time.
Okay. Somebody still needs to drive him in.
No. I'm saying you are going to be in situations where Judge is up and there's no one on more frequently this year. Most likely, right?
For sure. Nobody's going to be on base as much as Soto was. I mean, you can't replace that offense. But I'm still not pitching to Judge if Soto's on first, if Soto's on second, Soto's on third.
Right.
Like I'm still not – he can't beat me. He can't beat me.
That's what I'm talking about because their owner said Bellinger and Goldschmidt should make up for the Soto loss. I disagree. And so Giancarlo down hurts. Florida footage. We've done so many shows. I'm putting this at least in the top 5, maybe top 3, maybe number 1 fastest show ever. Do you guys agree?
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's the
went so
first show
fast.
we've had a guest on for more than one segment. I love it.
I think we've done it once, but I
Yeah,
get
we
your
did
point.
it with it was another agent. I guess we like agents.
Oh, it was with Jeff Berry.
Gosh, I
Thank you,
saw him the
thank
other
you.
day. He's looking for you, Scott. He's looking.
I'm
for
looking
you. I
for
saw
him. I texted him. I'll say it right on the air. Jeff Berry was really vocal, and I'm like, Jeff, I've texted him a few times. We text back and forth. Then I say, come on the show. But now he works for a team. I'm like, Jeff, I'm calling you out on a lot of televisions and digital and pod and all of that. Come on the show.
Don't
I want to
change.
hear about your new role. Don't change, Jeff.
Don't change, Jeff.
Somebody text
I love
Jeff
when
and
you're
say we're
on.
talking about him. I need that reply. Couple quick signings, guys. John Means and the Guardians. 1 year contract, $1 million, club option worth up to $7.5 million. No buyout, recovering from TJ. Target is August on the return
August,
for him. And the Nationals signed Paul DeYoung to a 1 year, $1 million contract. 24 homers last year, and he's a really good defender. Can play third base, can play a little shortstop, and I guess some DH time, whatever. But thoughts on these two on our way out? We got 1 minute each from you, AJ. You saw DeYoung a little bit on the White Sox play well, and they get
Way to
moved.
go. You got another million. You got another year possibly under your belt. Good job. Surprised he only got 1 million after hitting homers, but he was kind of homer or nothing. And defense, he didn't really have a position.
I like
Good
the
defender,
Means stuff. I loved when
Means
Means was on here. He just seems like a competitor, a dude that's been through it, and I think he'll add to that Guardians organization, not just the team because he won't be there till August, but he's going to add to this organization, especially since they can have him again next year for $7 million. Easy signing.
Those are the kind of deals that could work out beautifully, right? If he does recover, comes back, because yes, this is someone who's been injury prone, but when he's been on the field, he's often been really productive. Yeah, Kratz, you get a $7 million starter for 2026. That's gold to Cleveland because they operate at a really, really low budget.
Yep.
There you go. All right. If you're watching online, we're going to stay on. We got a few other things to hit. Otherwise, we'll be back on tomorrow. We got a lot more on the team storylines to go. So we'll run through those the rest of the week. We'll work on some other special guests, but this one was really damn good. Thanks to everyone for coming on. See you Tuesday if you're leaving on TV. All right, let me speed through a few other things that we didn't get to. Did you guys see Anthony Rendon has no insurance on that contract? Ken reported it in his notes column late last night. So
The team
there
has
was
no.
an opportunity. The team has no insurance policy on his contract. And according to one Ken source, they think, they could have gotten like $50 million back if they went with that insurance policy. Artie doesn't want to do that. The owner of the Angels. He's not the only one. Many teams don't play ball with the insurance policies, but it would have given them a lot of cash back in this case.
Our guest took a little shot at that too today. Let's not forget.
He did.
Boras took a little shot today.
I don't think everybody heard that, but yeah, he
Because
did.
Boras also does that with his players too. He also encourages them to get insurance policies. Like let's use Alex Bregman, for example. If it costs you $50,000 to get a insurance policy or whatever the number is, throwing out random numbers. I actually did it a couple of times with Lloyd's of London, where you get an insurance policy if you sign like a 1 year deal. Like I did it the year before I hit arbitration. I took an insurance policy out for a certain amount where if I got hurt and could never play again, I was set for the rest of my life. And then obviously I didn't, and I got my arbitration. So,
That's cool. That's smart.
No.
Max Scherzer, I think, did that on a large policy when it was talked about, right? Because he had been injured a little bit early in his career, and they're like, oh, should he wait? And he waited and obviously cashed out big with the Nationals. It worked out for all sides. They won a World Series title. He was dominant during that time period. All right, one more thing, and then Dodgers territory is going to flip on for the YouTube crowd. There's a few other topics we'll get to tomorrow. And then Baseball America Hot Sheet, really good topics. We're going to go over the Devers situation again. So if you're watching and you want more of that from the prospect side with Campbell and everyone, we'll hit that. We'll hit the Orioles logjam, but I want to spend a minute on this. This is my dork of the week, which is what Ken Rosenthal usually covers. Texas A&M had a policy in their online media guide that said that players will not be available following a loss. And they got destroyed this weekend on social media. And guess what, AJ? the policy disappeared online. There must have been a glitch. It's like MLB not having April in the schedule for 48 hours until we pointed out on FT, and it gets fixed right away. So what do you think? Are you teaching players how to be a pro if they're not allowed to talk to the media after a loss?
No, and they're ranked number 1 in the country right now. So they're not going to lose many, but when they do, they got to have grown men and go talk. You're getting paid.
They do it.
A lot of those guys are getting paid like professionals. They need to act like professionals.
I was going to say, they already have grown men because there ain't no young dudes on that team. Those dudes,
No.
bang. They are stacked.
And when you get paid, you can talk about players a little bit differently. They're professionals now. These are pros, and they're adults. Let them talk. It's ridiculous policy to even put that out there. Good show, people. Dodgers territory next.